So the fabric naturally comes down and is passed between these three rollers. If for any reason you found that the fabric was skewing to the right and the left, it could be there's a pressure change between these two rollers, but should not be. So, you know, if it's going that way, maybe this roller is too tight. They should be put in equally. Then the roller is brought down here and is put around this metal bar. And there's a small hook on the side. We can pull it out and, oh, actually we're on, yeah, here we go. I can take out the bar. And then once we cut the roll, we'll cut it, we pull out enough to cut it so then we can still wrap it around the bar again.
Yeah.
It's wrapped around, it's put into the slot, and you have to pull this out. And then we have to turn the handle on the bottom. The tension is of the pulling down is now set. So there are four main positions. Right now you are in C. It can only be released with this up, and you can. And sometimes you. So these are the four main. The bigger groups, I guess you can adjust, and then this is fine-tuning the individual group.
Okay.
So if you're in B, then you have 10 positions in B. If you're in C, you have 10 positions in C.
And what does that adjust exactly?
The amount of tension pulling down on the fabric. So this can turn faster.
Okay.
Which pulls more the yarn.
And
the
how
fabric.
often do you tweak that?
You only tweak that is if you want to, it's too loose here, you've changed it will be set now for specific for this acrylic. If you want to make it looser again, you will pull more. You would make it tighter. So this way, it does not allow the stitch to go up. It allows the stitch to go, not allow the stitch to go wide. It will go down, but then once it is released, it will go wide again. So it gives you can adjust the width from here.
But is it an actual finished width?
No, you cannot measure it while it's on the machine because it's under tension.
Yeah, but what I mean is if you adjust that and you pull it more, it's gonna...
It will adjust the finish width.
Yeah, so it's gonna come smaller.
Smaller or wider. Well, I mean, it depends which direction.
If you put it tighter, it's gonna come smaller.
Yeah, but this has to be in the up position.
And why would you tweak that over that or that over that?
It's a different yarn. Oh, like first, second, third, in that order. Mostly everything can be done here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you just leave that at the bottom.
Yeah, it's really as if you're changing a different yarn, and then you're out of balance.
Yeah.
So you have to go more. Then you're usually working in an inch play with this. But if you're changing yarn and it's like way too light or way too narrow, then you have to play with both. It's just you're changing your zones.
Yeah.
And again, there's a hand.
How do you know if it's too tight or too light?
Well, right now,
I
cranked it. When it starts to run, it'll loosen up a little bit. You just don't want it too loose. You want to make sure that it's pulling. We can, and again, it's going to say the door is open.
Until you reset.
Stop. And then, so why don't you feel it now? It's quite tight. Like just bounce your hand on the top.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Okay. And close the door, release it. Run it a little bit. Oh. What happened here? Double yarn came in. I don't know what happened. Okay, you got kicked out.
It has to click. You have to hear the click. If you don't hear the click, it's not going to work.
So you remember when I said go by hand first? It's still thick over here, but it's getting better.
it's a troubleshooting.
Always get in the habit of whenever you do something with the machine, like if you
Yeah,
touch
we're,
the paper,
we're touching everything, so
just,
yeah.
just touch to see, make sure you're pulling, you know, right now that's over exaggerated. You want to pull, touch that to make sure it's tight. You want to check it, you know, to make sure your belt is tight. And then when you're running the machine, check to make sure that the adjustment you made isn't too loose or too tight. Because if it's too loose, like if you have that spinning and feeding the yarn in too fast, you're going to get what they call drop stitches. So you see on the fabric, like little stitches that are dropped off. What it is because it's feeding too fast, it doesn't have a chance to knit, and it just rolls right off the needle. So that's some things like raising the dial. If you raise it up too much, you'll be missing the needle. So you do everything slowly. And my suggestion, whenever you raise the dial, even if you want to raise it like a half, raise it a little bit and then move the machine. Why? Because what it does is it'll create the new yarn patterns, and then it'll be equal, and then you could do it a little bit more. But if you like crank it up like one full turn, the yarn is being stretched like hell because it's already created a stitch, and then you could break the yarn.
Because you're like halfway into
Yeah.
into a
Go
revolution.
slowly.
Yeah, so
into the revolution.
like yesterday when I raised this up one full turn, I raised it like a quarter, moved the machine, raise it a quarter, move the machine, raise a quarter, you know. So this way you're kind of sure. Also too, if these are on borderline, meaning like you're feeding it in just enough, and then you raise up the dial, these might get very tight, and then you'll have breakage. Or if you're lowering the dial and you don't do it the full turn, you know, like I said, you know, do a little bit turn. If you do the one full turn, what it could do is overfeed, and then you got a mess, and then you're like, holy shit, now what do I do? You know, so it's do everything
514
slowly.
814 8322.
That's your number or his? That's yours.
I'll give you his number too.
You'll have my number too. But always do everything slow. Don't try to do something drastically because it's not a good thing. Because as you're working, you'll see the fabric. If it starts to pile up, that means you've adjusted maybe the tension wrong down there.
Yeah.
If it's pulling too much, after you make a full turn, you feel it. Well, give it like, whenever you adjust down there, give it a couple of turns to adjust itself, and then you can feel it. But always, you know, check the
Slowly.
machine out slowly.